Man, I didn't see this one coming. The Philadelphia 76ers trade Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and two future firsts for James Harden and Paul Millsap. I honestly really like this trade for both teams, not for myself as a Chicago Bulls fan. So the Sixers should improve immediately, adding an all-star to the roster in place of solid, dependable, yet never amazing Seth Curry. And obviously, since Simmons wasn't playing, he's a non-factor, so I think they should start winning even more games than they previously were. All right, I want to start by talking about Philly since they're the team that's going to feel the true impact of this trade right away. I think Harden and Embiid have the potential to be an absolutely lethal offensive duo, and their team has enough solid defenders to hopefully hide Harden's deficiencies on that side of the ball. Now, the thing about Embiid is he's not necessarily a rim running center, instead a guy who likes to play at the elbow and utilize his face-up game, which is absolutely fantastic, by the way. I don't think he should stop doing that. Now, I think he'll be willing to be the roll man on some pick and roll plays, but that's not really what makes him special as a player. So, in a sense, I'm somewhat worried about their skill sets truly being complementary to one another, even though they might seem to be on paper. And again, I don't think this is going to be a bad pairing. In fact, I think it's going to work out. Great players tend to figure it out more often than not. Although, another factor that might make people slightly worried is that Harden's had a lot of issues in the past with other star players. Think Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, and of course, recently, KD and Kyrie. All right, now let's take a look at the Nets side of this trade because I like it a lot for them as well. Of course, they lost the best player in the trade, in my opinion, but they're getting back one of the best young players in the league who's under contract for a few more years. Simmons' defensive abilities should be able to plug any of the holes present. Seth Curry and Kyrie Irving and Patty Mills. Not that he's the end-all be-all defensively, but I like to compare him to Rudy Gobert with the Utah Jazz. Not that he's necessarily quite to that level, but he can be the anchor of your defense and really make up for a lot of other subpar defenders, which Gobert does on a nightly basis, by the way. He's got to deal with Donovan Mitchell's lack of effort, Mike Conley's age, Jordan Clarkson, who's always sucked at defense, a number of other guys. Anyways, that's a conversation for a different day. All right, I was just thinking about this while recording. If the Nets want to go really crazy and throw out an extremely small ball lineup with Curry, Patty Mills, Kyrie, KD, and Simmons, he's going to be surrounded by four guys who are 40% three-point shooters. Of course, this lineup's going to suck on defense, but this should take a lot of pressure off of him to be an outside threat and really open up the floor for him to create at the rim, even in the half court. Also, Simmons is one of the best passing forwards in the league, so having all this space to create and dish out to these fantastic shooters could be very good. I said forward, I don't know, he's probably going to bring the ball up sometimes, then play forward and also play center. I don't know, he's one of these positionless guys. I'm also really excited to see what Nash is able to do in the half court with these guys, possibly using Simmons as more of a traditional center for the first time in his career. And yes, of course, he's still going to thrive and be most effective in transition, I think. But allowing him to get post touches and work on that aspect of his game will be extremely valuable and give the Nets more options come playoff time. Now, I want to sort of segue into playoff time with the Nets. Simmons has not proved to be a guy who's great under pressure in his career. Of course, the famous dunk, or lack thereof. I'm sort of worried. I don't necessarily think switching teams is going to fix his ability to perform under pressure and perform in high leverage moments in the playoffs, game sevens, that sort of thing. And of course, this brings up another interesting point. Harden's never been great in the playoffs either. We all know that. Labeled a bit of a choke artist throughout his career, and I think that's a reasonable concern if you're a Sixers fan. I mean, you just had a guy who has cemented himself as a playoff choker leave, and you're sort of getting one back. Now, the case for Harden in the playoffs is that he's never played with a guy of Embiid's status or capabilities other than KD last year when Harden was playing on one hamstring, so I'll give that to him. But Harden also seems to have slightly regressed this year, so I don't know. Can those things cancel out, and is he going to be a still subpar player in the playoffs? He's definitely not going to be one of the better players in the playoffs. The East is stacked this year. But again, this is all speculation, and we haven't seen any of these guys play a game together, so it's a little too early to be thinking about the playoffs, but that's the more interesting part of this discussion. Anyways, I think both teams will improve drastically after this trade, and I'm really excited to see how both of these revamped rosters come together and perform.